Ecclesiastes 5:1 through 6:12. Devotional focus verse. When thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it, for he hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Ecclesiastes 5:4. Marriage vows are an illustration of the sacred nature of vows made before God. For 60 years, David and Ruby Jordan of Suffolk, Virginia, lived by the wedding vows they had taken. They proved their adherence to the words, in sickness and in health, in adversity and in prosperity, as well as their commitment to each other. In March of 1998, Ruby suffered a stroke, and it was discovered that she had the disease thrombocytopenic purpura syndrome, which kills brain cells. She spent 6 months in the hospital and then was transferred to a skilled nursing facility. When Ruby did not respond to treatment there, David made the decision to bring her home. Amazingly, once she was back in familiar surroundings, a change began to take place. Although she could not speak, she started communicating with her family and friends through gestures and smiles. The family was able to obtain in-home nursing help during the day, but David took care of Ruby from the time he arrived home from work at 4 each evening until 8 the following morning. He never complained, and he always wore a smile. From the outset, David wanted to make life as normal as possible for his beloved wife. He had a special van equipped to accommodate her wheelchair, and he took her out and about, to church, shopping, and on other outings. In 2004, he took her on a 4-day vacation to Myrtle Beach to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary. Another time, he rented a boat and arranged a fishing trip for her because she had always loved fishing. David once said, "I know what she needs and when she needs it, but I guess after being married for more than 50 years, that's not hard to do. I cherish my wedding vows, and I think everyone who takes them should honor them. If your spouse gets ill or becomes disabled, do what you can to help them. After all, I know that if the shoe were on the other foot, she would do the same for me." He proved those words until Ruby passed away in 2014. David and Ruby's vows, while taken before God, were made to each other. In today's text, Solomon addressed the subject of vows made to God. He cautioned against being rash or hasty in speech, which included the making of vows. He also pointed to the importance of keeping vows that are made and warned against backing out of a vow by claiming it was a mistake. His 3-part emphasis made it abundantly clear that any person who makes a vow before God will be held accountable to keep it. Circumstances in life change. Adversities come. Feelings ebb and flow like the tide. However, vows are a solemn commitment, and they must be kept. We can purpose to follow the example of David and Ruby and make sure that we keep our vows. Background information. This portion of text can be separated into 2 segments. In verses 1 through 7 of chapter 5, Solomon offered words of advice on 2 topics: reverence and worship, see verses 1 through 3, and caution regarding vows, see verses 4 through 7. The remainder of chapter 5, verses 8 through 20, and all of chapter 6 address how to adjust to economic problems. In chapter 5, verse 1, the phrase, "keep thy foot," alludes to exercising reverence when in God's house, and being an obedient listener rather than engaging in meaningless worship. In verse 2, the preacher exhorted against speaking impulsively to God, indicating that prayer should be reverent and contemplative. Verses 4 through 7 address the necessity of fulfilling vows, emphasizing that it is better not to make a vow at all than to fail to accomplish it. The word angel in verse 6 could be translated as messenger of God and most likely refers to the priest. It was not uncommon during that time for the priest to be told that a certain vow was a mistake and therefore unredeemable. Solomon emphasized that God takes all vows seriously, and punishment could result if vows were not kept. In verse 8, the writer stated that the oppression of the poor and perversion of those in government should come as no surprise, but there is a higher power who ultimately would be the judge over all. Verse 9 conveys that the harvest benefits everyone, and even the king is entitled to his fair share. Verses 10 through 17 focus on the vanity of trusting in personal wealth. Those who put their confidence in riches are never satisfied, and the accumulation of wealth brings more responsibility. While the sleep of a laborer is peaceful, the rich are wakeful because of stress over their responsibilities and wealth. In verses 18 through 20, Solomon said it is acceptable to enjoy the fruits of one's labor as long as God is given the credit for providing it. He brought out that those who acknowledge their portion as a gift from God would experience joy and gladness. In chapter 6, Solomon continued his practical counsel on the theme of material prosperity. In verses 1 and 2, he pondered the fate of a man whom God had allowed to obtain wealth, but who did not live to enjoy it. He concluded that the acquisition of riches as a purpose in life is vanity. In Solomon's culture, living a long life and having many children were considered worthy goals. However, verses 3 through 6 indicate that if a man's life is not filled with goodly purpose or worthy fulfillment, or he is not honored with a proper burial, it would be preferable for him to never have been born. Verses 7 through 9 emphasize that man's spiritual appetite cannot be satisfied with material gain. The wise man and the fool, the poor and the wealthy, will all end in the grave. Solomon also brought out that it is better to be content with what the eyes can see than to desire something that is unattainable. Verses 10 through 12 point out that it is futile for man to contend with God. Man does not have the ability to know what is best in life, and he can do little to determine what will happen in the world after he is dead. Conclusion: a vow is a solemn commitment or contract made before or to God, and it is vital that we are very careful about keeping such commitments.
Chapter 5. Keep thy foot when thou goest to the house of God, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with thy mouth, and let not thine heart be hasty to utter anything before God. For God is in heaven, and thou upon earth. Therefore let thy words be few. For a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by multitude of words. When thou vowest a vow unto God, defer not to pay it, for he hath no pleasure in fools. Pay that which thou hast vowed. Better is it that thou shouldest not vow, than that thou shouldest vow and not pay. Suffer not thy mouth to cause thy flesh to sin. Neither say thou before the angel that it was an error. Wherefore should God be angry at thy voice, and destroy the work of thine hands? For in the multitude of dreams and many words there are also divers vanities. But fear thou God. If thou seest the oppression of the poor, and violent perverting of judgment and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter. For he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they. Moreover, the profit of the earth is for all. The king himself is served by the field. He that loveth silver shall not be satisfied with silver, nor he that loveth abundance with increase. This is also vanity. When goods increase, they are increased that eat them. And what good is there to the owners thereof, saving the beholding of them with their eyes? The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eat little or much. But the abundance of the rich will not suffer him to sleep. There is a sore evil which I have seen under the sun, namely, riches kept for the owners thereof to their hurt. But those riches perish by evil travail, and he begetteth a son, and there is nothing in his hand. As he came forth of his mother's womb, naked shall he return to go as he came, and shall take nothing of his labor which he may carry away in his hand. And this also is a sore evil, that in all points as he came, so shall he go. And what profit hath he that hath labored for the wind? All his days also he eateth in darkness, and he hath much sorrow and wrath with his sickness. Behold that which I have seen. It is good and comely for one to eat and to drink, and to enjoy the good of all his labor that he taketh under the sun all the days of his life which God giveth him, for it is his portion. Every man also to whom God hath given riches and wealth, and hath given him power to eat thereof, and to take his portion, and to rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of God. For he shall not much remember the days of his life, because God answereth him in the joy of his heart.
Ecclesiastes chapter 6. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and it is common among men. A man to whom God hath given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wanteth nothing for his soul of all that he desireth, yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. This is vanity, and it is an evil disease. If a man beget 100 children, and live many years, so that the days of his years be many, and his soul be not filled with good, and also that he have no burial, I say, that an untimely birth is better than he. For he cometh in with vanity, and departeth in darkness, and his name shall be covered with darkness. Moreover he hath not seen the sun, nor known anything, this hath more rest than the other. Yea, though he live 1,000 years twice told, yet hath he seen no good. Do not all go to one place. All the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. For what hath the wise more than the fool? What hath the poor, that knoweth to walk before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of the desire, this is also vanity and vexation of spirit. That which hath been is named already, and it is known that it is man, neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he. Seeing there be many things that increase vanity, what is man the better? For who knoweth what is good for man in this life, all the days of his vain life which he spendeth as a shadow? For who can tell a man what shall be after him under the sun?